Hello and welcome to Run Testers, my name's Nick and this is our multi-test review of the Saucony Endorphin Shift 3. So the Shift 3 is the other road running shoe in Saucony's range, along with the Speed 3 and the Pro 3. So those are both plated shoes. The Endorphin Pro 3 has a carbon plate for racing. The Speed 3 has a nylon plate and it's really a do-it-all shoe, covers a lot of training, but I guess it's kind of mainly designed to be a fast training shoe, whereas the Shift 3 is the easy training shoe in the range. Just a big, comfortable, stable, cushion shoe to protect the legs for your easy runs before you switch to the faster shoes for racing or up-tempo training. It costs £140 in the UK, $150 in the US. It weighs in at 279 grams or 9.8 ounces, and it's got a 4mm drop from 39mm at the heel to 35mm at the forefoot. Big changes Saucony has made here is the midsole is now a bit softer and a bit lighter than previous editions. It's still power run foam, but they've tweaked the formula for it to make it a bit lighter and softer in a similar way to what they did with the Ride 15 this year. That means that despite the vast stack on the shoe, it is pretty lightweight, coming in well under 300 grams in my size for a cushion shoe like this. Does stand out a bit on the market. You've also got a thick Power Run Plus insole in there, which again softens up the ride a little bit. And you've also got the speed roll geometry, the rocker that you see on things like the Endorphin Pro and Endorphin Speed, and that just creates a nice smooth rolling ride. You've got a breathable mesh upper with Saucony's form fit design. This is the Pro version of the shoe, so it's got some reflective details in there and some very nice laces. They've got a bit of padding around the heel there and on the tongue, but not vast amounts, even for what is a very cushioned shoe. You've got a lot of stability elements with this shoe, including this big plastic heel clip that runs around the back of the shoe. It's a huge heel counter. You've got sidewalls of foam that your foot sits in, a bit like a bucket seat, and it's got a very wide base in general to create just stability all round, because you're dealing with quite a high stack of foam here. Then you've got the XT900 rubber outsole for a cushion shoe, pitched for easy runs. That the outsole is pretty minimal, and that obviously helps keep the weight down, but might impact on durability a little bit. And
the fit for me in the Saucony Endorphin Shift 3, true to size, very comfortable. That's all I have to say on it.
So on fit then, I ran in a UK 8.5, true to size, and that's what I'd recommend. These had perfect kind of fit, good heel hold, good wrap in the uppers, plenty of wiggle room in the toe box, length and width wise. So yeah, I'd be recommending going true to size.
Fit wise, the Endorphin Shift 3, it's wide, which fits with that kind of easy day vibe. So it's slightly on the bigger end of the spectrum, but I was still happy in a size 7. Heel counter rubbed a tiny bit because it's quite chunky to start with, but that settled down really quick. You sit down low in the shoe, so it locks in quite nicely. And these snazzy laces, which are round, so you might expect them to come undone, don't.
So fit for me with this Shift 3, I would say go true to size. I've had no real issues in terms of the fit here. I think the space up front of the toe box has been absolutely fine. I think things like the hold you're getting at the midfoot and at the heel, absolutely fine.
so I found that the Shift 3 fit me very well, true to size. It's got reasonably roomy toe box, but about where you'd want it for a nice comfortable cruising shoe like this, and then no problems at all around the heel and midfoot. So I've run around 50k in the Endorphin Shift 3, and that's mostly been very easy general training runs, with a couple of runs where I've progressed the pace a little bit towards the end of them, just to see how it feels at kind of more like steady tempo paces. Within the context of the Endorphin range, this shoe makes a lot of sense. Like, you've got the Speed 3 there that basically does everything. You can just use the Speed 3 for all your runs. It's great for easy runs as well as everything else, but if you are using a full rotation, the Speed 3 will do more of your up-tempo training runs, whereas the Shift 3 will just cover off your easy stuff. And it works for that because it's just a big, protective, stable shoe that will absorb the impact of running and just eat up all those easy miles very comfortably. It's got that, it's a huge block of foam, but it is stable, and it's got that rocker design which does smooth out the ride, make it a little bit more flowing and natural, so shoe can disappear on the foot at times, I'd say. And if you do stick mostly to easy runs, then the Shift will do you quite nicely. It's quite a dull ride, but it protects the legs well. However, there's lots of shoes that do that job, and I think a lot of them do it a bit better, and I don't think this is a very versatile shoe. And even actually sometimes on easy runs, I've struggled to get into a rhythm with that rocker. Like sometimes it's fine, just rock along, no problem at all, but then sometimes it just doesn't feel quite right. It just feels like a big shoe, and the geometry just doesn't work very well for me. It's not a heavy shoe, but it is large. It's just a bit cumbersome, and certainly when you're trying up the pace, I noticed this. Like, I was just moving through the gears towards steady paces at the end of the runs. It just feels big. Like, you've got the rocker there, but it doesn't feel like it's creating exactly the right kind of ride that I was expecting from the rocker that I have got from the speed roll technology and Saucony's other shoes. It just feels like the vast amount of foam at the back of the shoe here just gets in the way a bit, and I don't get that smooth transition, and the shoe just annoys me a little bit, basically. And actually, that's sometimes the case in easy runs. It just doesn't feel like a shoe that always disappears on the foot. It's just, I'm a bit aware of it. It's just a bit big. It's not really rolling through nicely, and I just don't enjoy using it as much as some other shoes. So I had no real problem with it. Like, it's just yeah, it just felt a bit lifeless to me, and there are shoes out there that will do a better job. It's not uncomfortably firm or anything, especially with the rocker smoothing out that ride, but it's not exactly responsive, it's not very lively, it's just there. Basically, it's a bit of foam on the end of your foot that's helping protect the legs, and that's fine, it does that job, but I think there are other shoes that do easy runs better. Other small concern I have with it is the outsole, which I just think is a bit minimal, and I've had a few problems with grip with this shoe on wet pavements. Nothing too bad, but it just feels like it's a big, comfortable cruising shoe to handle easy runs. I would prefer to have a better outsole on it and get a bit more grip and a bit more durability. This is a pretty lightweight shoe. It's 280 grams. They could afford 20 grams of weight, chuck in a bit of an outsole. It's nice to have lighter shoes, but for this kind of running, I think a better outsole would be preferable to slightly less weight.
I've done a mixture of tempo to 160 BPM, strides, easy runs, treadmill and road in this shoe. I'm not sold. It feels like it gives nothing back. It's just dull. As a heel striker, this chunk here just makes it feel so solid. I did notice the lovely squishy Power Run Plus insole. When I was on the treadmill, I noticed that fine, but there's just no bounce. I think because of the lower drop, only 4mm, I didn't feel any of the benefits of that speed roll technology that makes the Pro 3 and the Speed 3 absolutely amazing shoes. I felt the roll more when I was walking. I think for something that's supposed to kind of protect your legs and just let you tick over on an easy day, it didn't feel light, and yet it is light compared to other shoes in the market. It's about 50 grams heavier than the Pro and about 40 grams heavier than the Speed. Not sold. It's got no soul, someone else wrote about it, and I think they've absolutely nailed it.
So I've done around 30 plus miles in the Saucony Endorphin Shift 3. Most of those have been kind of at the easier, kind of slower end of kind of intensity, although I have done some up-tempo run tests in them too. I've also done that on a mixture of kind of roads and river paths. Now, I really like these shoes from the moment I put them on. I think they've got brilliant step-in comfort and a really nice disappearing feel on the foot. I think the uppers hug without feeling too restrictive or constrictive. I think they've got a kind of a nicely sort of balanced padded tongue, which kind of takes away any kind of lace pinch without feeling kind of too flabby and overcooked. I think the cushioning into the heel collar is just about right for that sort of a shoe that you want to go around and cruise in. Again, it's not overdone, but there's nice sort of padding there, which makes for great comfort. On the runs, I really enjoyed the well-balanced Power Run midsole foam. I think it kind of suits the way that I like a shoe. It's got the balance of protection and cushion just right for the way that I like it anyway. And that means, it's not too soft, it's not too firm, it's not too heavy, it's not too clunky and chunky on the foot. Now, I know some people might not be so keen on the 4mm drop. Maybe that's a little bit low for some people, but I have run in 4mm drop quite a lot. It does make them run a little bit flat, but I don't really mind that at all. Now, I think what you've got here, these are sort of nice and wide. I think you get a really, really good stable platform to run on here. There's a really good base to run on. But I also really feel like I think Saucony's speed roll tech really does kind of roll you through your stride, and I think makes it kind of a sort of nice, effortless, kind of easy rolling shoe, particularly at those kind of lower and slower miles. I also really loved what Saucony calls that deeper kind of form fit shaping, where your foot sits a little bit lower in, a bit like the bucket sort of style that you might get on a Hoka, along with the sock liner that you've got here that's made from Power Run Plus. That makes these kind of feel like they're molded to your feet actually underneath. I think it kind of holds and cradles my foot in all the right places. I really, really enjoyed that for the overall comfort and just feeling kind of supported and cushioned, but not kind of sinky and saggy and overdone. I didn't find them too squishy. I found them kind of just nicely balanced on that mix of kind of softness and sort of firmness, and that made for me like a really, really good, easy to kind of middling kind of run shoe.
So I'd say my running experience with the Endorphin Shift 3 overall has been fine. Nothing massively memorable. Pretty much all the runs I did, I came back and I was like, yeah, it's fine, it's comfortable, the ride feels smooth, relatively consistent, but ultimately I was looking for something a little bit more lively, particularly when you're getting elements from those kind of quicker Saucony Endorphin shoes in this shoe, and with the idea that you've got something that's familiar but also is better designed to run and log a lot of runs in. And ultimately I think there's a couple of issues here. I think ultimately you're feeling that heaviness. I do think you get that feeling, that clunkiness in it, particularly you've got that what's going on back here in the heel, which ultimately that is what it's designed to kind of keep you kind of controlled, stop you from kind of really ultimately hammering it out in at those kind of quicker paces. But if you wanted to run quicker, I don't think it's it's the best shoe to do that in. You kind of compare it to something like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, which kind of works, and I would say Speed 2 as well. It kind of works a variety of paces, and you can slow things down, and it does feel relatively a bit more controlled. I would say more so on the Speed 3. But yeah, pretty much every run I did, it was like, it's fine. It's a fine, comfortable, solid kind of shoe. But I think in terms of, looking at how it sits kind of in the kind of Endorphin range, I don't think it really kind of stood out for me in terms of kind of my running time with it. I think, elsewhere, I mean, the upper has been absolutely fine. The outsole generally has been okay for me. Grip wise, I've run on kind of dry and wet kind of pavements, and it's been absolutely fine generally for me from that point of view. But yeah, I would say it's a good shoe. I don't think it's a groundbreaking, a very memorable shoe to run in. And I think ultimately there's probably better shoes to go for over this.
I've done about 60k in the Endorphin Shift 3 so far, and those have been enjoyable, easy day runs, recovery runs, that sort of thing. But I have tried to push it a little bit further and see how it delivers when you pick up the pace a bit. It doesn't really do a lot when you start trying to go a bit faster. I don't think it's a very versatile shoe. I definitely wouldn't pick this up as a daily trainer that you want to use for different types of running. But when it comes to easy day miles and recovery miles, I think it's a solid shoe. I think it does the job. All the runs that I've done in it have been around that easy pace, and what I found is that it's fine. I don't think about the shoe that much when I'm running in it. I definitely don't feel like there's any problems with the shoe. It does the job, gets me to the end, and it's quite comfortable. But what I would say is that it doesn't really do anything else. It doesn't do anything above and beyond what that workhorse, easy day type of trainer should do, which may not be a bad thing, but I think these days when there are so many great options about for cushion trainers that are a bit more versatile, I just don't think the Shift 3 fits into that. It's really just a solid workhorse that you can tick off the miles in, but not really expect anything else from. That midsole foam is actually an improvement on the Shift 2. I did quite a bit of testing in the Shift 2 last year, and I didn't particularly mind that shoe, but it just felt very clunky, very bulky, and definitely not a shoe that I pick up to add to my rotation, because there were just better shoes that I had to use for that purpose. But the Shift 3 has had improvements made to it. It feels a bit lighter. That midsole foam is by no means a soft foam, but it is a little bit softer than what I got in the Shift 2. The Shift 2 felt to me like a very heavy stability shoe, and it wasn't really designed for that. The Shift 3 isn't a stability shoe either, but I think it does have stability elements to it. It feels very solid on the feet. It feels like there's a lot of support in the shoe, especially around the midsole and this heel bit of plastic here. So it's a good shoe maybe if you want something that has a bit of stability in it, but you don't want to go all out and get a full stability shoe. The only problem with that is that Saucony have released the Saucony Tempus, which is a far superior shoe and has stability elements in it. It's also more versatile than this shoe. So I would say that Saucony has better options without me even talking about the other brands that have options out there. That midsole foam, it's not particularly responsive, it's not particularly bouncy, and it's just a bit of a balanced foam. It's not too firm either, but I think the build of it and the support and the structure of the shoe does make it feel like it's a little bit clumpy and probably isn't great if you're looking for something you can do a little bit more than just your average easy day runs. So my verdict on the Endorphin Shift 3 is that it's a solid workhorse shoe, but it doesn't really do much else. And I think the problem is when you get to the price range of shoes like this, you want the best shoe for what you're doing. And really there's a very limited range of things that this shoe can do. It's a good, comfortable, stable workhorse trainer, but that's it. And there are better shoes out there that are either cheaper or just do better things than what the Shift 3 does. And even Saucony's own shoe range has a better option in the Saucony Tempus, which I think is a far superior shoe. It's just better in every way, I think, that shoe. But also, if you're looking for a cushion shoe that has a bit more softness in it, a nice cruising cushion shoe, then there's also the Saucony Triumph 20, which is my favourite cushion shoe of the year. It's just got a little bit more bounce to it than what you'll get in this and the Tempus. It's a lovely cruising shoe. It's very comfortable. It's a nice balanced soft foam which has a little bit of responsiveness to it, and it's just a little bit more versatile than you often get with a heavily cushioned shoe. So I definitely think that Saucony has better options for it. I think this being part of the Endorphin range is a bit strange, because the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 is a fantastic shoe, my favourite race shoe, and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is a brilliant partner to that shoe for training. This seems way too far removed from the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 for me. It just doesn't seem to form a part of that Endorphin range, where I think the Saucony Tempest would actually be a better alternative to the Endorphin Shift 3. So it's fine. I don't think you're going to be disappointed with this if you get this shoe, but also I just think there are better options out there. And there are other things as well, like the Nike Invincible 2, which is significantly softer than this shoe. So if you're looking for a soft cushion shoe, that's probably a good alternative. Then if you look at something like the Brooks Glycerin 20, that is very similar to the Triumph 20 for me, and it's just a little bit more cushioning, a little bit more bounce, and just a more enjoyable run. So I'd probably say the only reason that you get this is if you want a bit more stability in your shoe, but even then there are better alternatives.
Verdict then. I'm really sorry, Saucony. I think you smashed it out of the park this year with all your other shoes, but this, I wouldn't buy it. I'm really sorry. I think there's other better shoes out there. I think the Triumph 20, even the Asics Gel Cumulus, which is a big hefty old shoe, I think is better for an easy day. It still feels like it's got more return and more something to it, like it knows what it's meant to be. It knows what it's meant to be doing. It looks nice, but I'm not sold, sorry.
So my verdict on the Saucony Endorphin Shift 3 is that it's a solid enough shoe in terms of what it's designed for, and it's designed for logging, I think, a lot of kind of running mileage, but ultimately I think there's better shoes that you can partner up with the kind of quicker Endorphin range. I think you can look at the Speeds 3. Ultimately, I think if you're using the Pro 3 and you want something that feels a little bit similar and you want to use for training, kind of some easier runs as well, I think there's something a bit more similar to this. I would say things like the Saucony Triumph 20, I think the Saucony Ride as well, they can partner up those quicker shoes, I think, as well, and potentially give you a nicer feeling ride, something a bit more memorable overall. And again, log a lot of running in, offer you something similar in terms of the fit and the outsole, kind of durability and grip as well. So yeah, I think Saucony hasn't got a lot of things wrong this year. I would say this is probably not one of their finer shoes that they've launched this year. As I said, I think there's probably better shoes, better shoe options in Saucony's own range. I think there's other shoes that can offer something similar to what is promised with this shoe. And other shoes are things like the Puma Velocity Nitrate 2, which is cheaper than this shoe and I think offers a bit more versatility and kind of similar kind of levels of protection and support in terms of what you're getting there. You can also look at things like kind of Brooks Glycerin 20 as well. So I think there's other options outside of this. I think there's better options in Saucony's own range to go for if you're looking for something to kind of partner up for kind of slower, kind of easier, kind of more comfortable runs, if you're using something like the Speeds or the Endorphin Pro.
So I think you could pick up the Endorphin Shift 3 and enjoy it, and it will do its job well. It does protect the legs well. You can roll through easy runs nicely. It will eat up all those miles, no problem at all. And then you can switch to faster shoes like the Speed or the Pro and enjoy your other runs in them a lot more. But it is a pretty dull ride for me, and it's comparable to a few shoes like this in the area. There's the Nike Infinity Run 3, which again has a big rocker. Protective ride. It's not very lively, but it does just roll you through and last forever and do a solid job. But actually, I feel the Nike feels a bit smaller on the foot. I think I enjoy using that shoe a bit more. I get into a rhythm much better with it. Actually, another shoe like this is the Adidas Addy Star, which again I got into a slightly better rhythm with when I was running in that shoe. I feel like the geometry just suited me better than on this shoe, where even with that rocker, which normally works for me on Saucony shoes, it didn't really feel that smooth. There's lots of, I think, cushioned easy options that are better than this shoe, and there's two from Saucony straight off the bat. There's the Triumph 20 and the Tempest. We've done a video comparing all three shoes. The Tempest is my favourite of those three shoes. It's got a more exciting ride with the Power Run PB there, but you've got the Power Run frame to create a nice stable ride as well. For me, that I would certainly prefer using that that shoe in partnership with the Endorphin Speed and Pro. And the Triumph is just a rock solid, excellent easy day shoe that's got the perfect balance of foam in it, where it's still stable and not too squishy, whilst also being a bit more responsive, a bit more versatile than the Shift. So I'd pick either of those if you're sticking with Saucony's range. And then looking outside of the range, there's the Brooks Glycerin 20, which I think is a tremendous cushion shoe, and I would certainly enjoy using ahead of this. Again, it's got slightly more lively midsole whilst also still being stable and a little bit firm and in all the right ways. And the Puma Velocity Nitro is a lot cheaper. It's not as cushioned as this shoe, obviously, but works very well for easy runs, I found. And if you want to go something in an entirely different direction, the Nike Invincible is very soft, bouncy, squishy, a lot more fun for your easy day runs. This is much more in the stable, supportive category, like the Infinity Run from Nike. Another shoe I think I'd probably prefer to this as well. It's fine, it does its job, and if you can get into sync with that rocker, then maybe it will work better for you, but I just found it was just in the way on a lot of my runs at varied paces. I wasn't a big fan of the outsole either, so yeah, not one that I'd be picking up myself.
So my verdict then, well, Saucony is pitching these shoes at the kind of easy to everyday runs. Now, the former I totally agree with. I think for easy day running, these shoes worked a treat. For the everyday, I'm not entirely sure what they mean by that, but if they're sort of pushing that into the kind of daily trainer sort of market, then I think for me there are shoes that have better kind of slow to fast ranges overall, that are a bit more versatile. I found these much better at the kind of lower end than I did at the faster end. I can personally sort of clip up a bit, but I know a lot of people might want them to feel a bit lighter and a bit more kind of punchy and responsive. So my take is, if you want an easy day shoe that's not too soft and too squishy, that's not kind of too leg sappy, it's just the right side of sort of firmness, then this shoe actually does that kind of spot on for those really kind of easy, steady miles. And what I really kind of mean by that is, I know this is a shoe that I can happily put on and really enjoy running in when I'm going out to run kind of under 125 beats per minute, that kind of really low intensity stuff where, often when I'm just going to go out, get my head up, look around, enjoy it. I'm doing a run just for my mental health, just to get out and feel the joy of running, enjoy the surroundings, where I'm not intent on having any kind of particular necessarily sort of training response. I'm not looking for these things to be able to go fast, put them on, disappearing feel on the feet, and then just run happy and free. These shoes, I think, do an excellent job at that. It's another very well put together shoe from Saucony. We've seen loads of them over the past couple of years, and I think this fits into the range really, really nicely and continues where you've left off with the Speed 3 and the Endorphin Pro 3 doing a really, really good job. Now, that said, if you own a pair of Saucony Endorphin Speed 3s, I'm not sure you need to add these to the range. I think the Speed 3s will do everything that these shoes need to do really on those easy runs as well, but they can also obviously pick up and handle those faster miles. They're sort of designed for that kind of faster running, but I think they've got such a good range that I wouldn't necessarily say that you need to add these if you already own those. If you think about other alternatives, I'd put these in the kind of same ballpark, maybe as like a Hoka Mach 5. I think it's got a similar kind of use case, and it's a toss-up for me which of these shoes is better. I would use them for exactly the same kind of runs. I personally think that it's a much better shoe than the Asics Nova Blast 3, which is another one you might be considering. I feel like the Asics Nova Blast 3 for me just run a little bit too soft. I don't really get the response that other people sort of say they get from them, and I much prefer the sort of slightly sort of firmer rolling ride that you get from these Shift 3.
That's our review of the Endorphin Shift 3. Jump into the comments and let us know what you think of this shoe. What is your favourite big cushion shoe of the moment? Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.